Welcome back to the Sports Medicine Orthopod. My name is Anthony Yu, and I'm thrilled to introduce this week's guest, Noel Felix, professional basketball veteran. He's traveled the world, stints in the NBA. Noel, how's it going? Welcome to the show.
Hey, man, I'm blessed, man. Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to just having a conversation with you and learning more about each other.
Yeah. And so, like I said, you've been around the game for a long time. I think a 12-year career playing
Yes, yes.
professionally, both in the NBA, overseas. I think it's fair to call you a journeyman. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, 100%. And I take a lot of pride in that because once you get that NBA jersey and you still have an opportunity to play,
Yeah.
um, I just felt so driven to see the world, and it was actually the best decision I ever made in my career.
Yeah.
So I'm very fortunate to be able to see what I've seen through sports and just been to so many places. I mean, it got to a point, Anthony, where I would say it's not about where I've been; it's where I haven't been.
Yeah.
That's how much I travel, and so I
Yeah.
use basketball as a tool to see the world, and I don't regret one day of it.
Yeah. So let's start from the beginning. You're
Mhm.
from LA.
Yeah.
Did you grow up a Lakers fan? Certainly, you weren't a Clippers fan, I'm guessing.
Well, 100%. I was a Laker fan. So for me, I started playing basketball very young, in the '80s,
Yeah.
and obviously in that era, you had Magic Johnson, and so for me, I watched him play, and I'm like, I want to do that, and so I started playing basketball at 6, and then I got really serious at 9,
Yeah.
and then at 11, I was well on the AAU circuit with it was called at the time it was called the PAL, and it was the Newton Police Department. They funded our league.
Okay.
And it's funny, there's a movie out there called End of Watch. I don't know if you ever heard of it or
I
seen it,
have
but
not. I'm gonna add it
End
to
of
the
Watch
list.
is with Michael Pena and Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh, okay.
And it's like you know how they have those movies where they film it like it's a videotape in the movie,
Yeah. Yeah.
like you're recording and documenting.
Sure.
So they're basically portraying the Newton Police Department, and
Mhm.
that department funded our league. So some of the scenes in the movie was like my neighborhood.
Okay.
So it was a trip to see that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Hmm.
So obviously high school standout, and then
Yeah.
you ended up
Yeah.
playing your college ball at Fresno State. How did that come
Yes.
about?
So my top 5 schools coming out was it was Tennessee, Cincinnati, Oregon State, and Fresno State.
Uh-huh.
And I chose Fresno State because I felt like Jerry Tarkanian was just such a iconic coach to play for, and it
Absolutely.
was away from LA. It was away from LA, but not too far away. If something happened, I had to get home 3 hours south,
Yeah.
and so that's where my decision was made. And they also had great players here. I played with a lot of great basketball players, and I had a great run here at Fresno State. So
Yeah.
I was very fortunate to play with who I played with and be coached under Coach Tarkanian when I was here. My
Well,
senior year, I played with Coach Lopes too, though. I had Coach Lopes my senior year.
okay.
For 3 years, I was fortunate enough to play with Coach Tarkanian, and then I played with Coach Lopes for a year.
Yeah, and I think fans of college basketball who are watching the game in that
Hmm.
era will definitely
Yeah,
know uh, Jerry Tarkanian,
yeah.
UNLV, Running Rebels, Larry
Hmm.
Johnson, those classic teams.
Yep.
What was that like being under his tutelage?
It was a blessing. I mean, it's so much with Coach Tark because you can talk to him about anything, and he would share stories all the way back to when he coached at UNLV,
Uh-huh.
and that was many, many, many moons ago.
Yeah.
You're talking like
Right.
'60s or something like that. So I love talking to him about stuff like that, and even at the end of his career, I mean, well, towards the end of his life, because he passed on,
Yep.
he went to San Diego a lot of summers, and that's where I lived, my wife and I. And
Uh-huh.
so I would see him, and I'd get a chance to spend some time with him
Sure.
toward the end of his life, where he was out there hanging out and stuff like that. So it was also a chance for me to pick his brain and talk to him because I had a very good relationship with him.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Did he have like multiple towels with him, or did you just have one towel that he would chew on?
I always acknowledge the fact that it was right next to him on the bench.
Yeah.
And I never really thought about how his towel routine was because,
Yeah.
a routine is just yours.
That's
He
right.
can have that towel, rewash it, and use it
Yeah.
again, or he can
Right.
have multiple towels.
Right.
Like I remember being in the locker room with LeBron James, and he had so many different like things. He had like gum, he had Carmex, and I'm like, I wonder if it's new every time,
Yeah.
But yeah, you never know. Everybody has their routine, so
That's right. Right.
yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. That's a great question.
Yeah, athletes can be superstitious. We know that,
Yeah,
and
very,
so
very,
and yeah, it's kind of
very.
a endearing thing about Coach Tarkanian. I think
Hmm.
that everybody will remember.
Yeah, my
Um,
superstition was a nap. I always
oh
needed a
yeah,
little bit, like a 45 minutes to an hour. I'm good. I needed that nap. That was my
yeah.
superstition.
How far before tip off would you do that?
So if we in college, if we played at in the afternoon around, let's say 7:30 game, I would have my nap after pregame meal.
Hmm.
So it'd be like around, I'd say 2 to 3.
Okay.
I'd crash. A good hour is all I need.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. So for your career at Fresno State, and then what happens?
So so my career, my agent who was Todd Ely at the time, he came to Fresno to meet with me.
Uh-huh.
And so we sat down and he mapped out his plan for me. He said it would take you, I'll get you in the NBA in 3 years. And I was like, okay, that sounds good. You know, my dream was to get into the NBA.
Yeah.
And so I signed with him and I trained with him and we worked out for the Phoenix Suns. And at the time, they had a coach, I forgot his last name. His name was Frank Johnson, I think. And then his assistant was Mike D'Antoni. And so
Okay.
Mike D'Antoni, he wanted me to go play. He recommended me go play in Italy because he was
Of
a star
course.
in Italy in his era.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so I was like, you know what? I want to see what happens in the NBA. And so I worked out with them, went to summer league with them, and I did really well. And at the time, the GM was David Griffin.
Uh-huh.
And on draft day, I was on the phone with him, and he told me they wanted to take me the second pick in the first round, or second pick in the first round, if I can remember, or the second pick in the first round, or the second round, like get me later.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And so I was like, cool. So I'm watching the draft, and this is 2003, so LeBron goes first, and
Yeah.
and so I'm watching, and then so they picked up Leandro Barbosa. That was their pick.
Yeah.
And then, no, I'm sorry. They picked up Žarko Kaparkapov first.
Okay.
He was their first pick in the draft.
Yeah.
I forgot where he went. A little outside the top 10,
Okay.
but below 15, something like that. And then their second pick was Leandro Barbosa.
Yeah.
And so they told me to come to camp. Like, you can come to camp, and we go from there.
Yeah.
And I decided to go to play in Shanghai, China.
Okay.
Because I just thought going to China was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I go to China. And then at that time, a lot of people might not remember, but Yao Ming won the championship with the team I went to, the Shanghai Sharks.
That's
So
awesome.
it was his first year in the NBA with the Houston Rockets.
Yeah.
That following year.
Okay.
And it was so cool. Like, it was such an amazing experience.
Yeah.
Because I got a chance to see something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And basketball was a huge deal then, and then it just continued to grow from there because Yao Ming became a phenomenal NBA player. Unfortunately, injuries, but that was it was so cool. Like, I was so thankful that I was able to go there and play. And so my plan was to go overseas, play, and then come to the minor league and get NBA coaching.
Right.
Because I got a chance to come back and play in the CBA for Larry Kostoviak with the Idaho Stampede. And that's where I got the coaching from the NBA and got the looks. Because at that time yet, I don't think that the NBA had scouts all over the world like they do now.
Sure.
But I came home and got the coaching and got to play with NBA talent, but also like play with professional guys in the States. So that's how that happened. I did that every year for the first 3 years.
Gotcha. And then your goal, you realized it, of joining an NBA franchise in, I want to say 2006, where you signed on with the Seattle Supersonics, the team that's now known as Oklahoma City Thunder. What was that like to finally, reach that mountaintop?
Well, so for me, it was cool, but I already kind of was already on the team in a sense because I went to camp with them.
Yeah.
And they asked me at the time, the GM was Rick's son and his Pendergrass, Dave Pendergrass, I believe. And he said, look, don't go back overseas and do what you've been doing. Stay here, and then we'll call you up.
Right.
And so they made some trades during the year. I think Vladimir Radmanovich was traded to the Lakers.
Okay.
Ronald Murray got traded, and he was a rebounder. I forgot his name. It slipped my mind, but it'll come to me in a second. But he ended up going to Denver.
Uh-huh.
And then they called me up, and that was it. That was the rest of
Yeah.
history there.
Yeah, and this is 15 years ago, but people will recognize
Yeah,
the names Ray Allen, Rashard
yeah.
Lewis,
hmm
even
Earl Watson was
Earl
there.
Watson,
Luke
Luke
Rittenauer was
Rittenauer.
there.
Yep. Yeah.
Local Robert Swift was there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was incredible, man. And it was great. I always looked at it as an amazing opportunity to showcase my talent, but also live my dream. And I didn't take that for granted. Like
Sure.
my routine in the NBA was I would go to the gym at like 8 a.m. and I would leave at like 3:30,
Yeah.
and practice was from 10 to 12. So um, Damon Wilkins was one of my teammates, and I would try to race him to be first to the gym.
Yeah.
And so I stayed in this hotel close to the gym so I could walk to Key Arena, and we shared our practice facility with the Seattle Storm. And it always trips me out to think about that because Sue Bird's been on that team ever since.
That's right.
Yeah, she's
Still
been there. So she
still
was
doing
there.
it. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So to be a part of that and to see like them and to just be a part of an NBA franchise, it was like a full circle for me, and it was exactly what my agent told me.
Yeah.
I stuck to the script. I got to see the world. I got my college, my minor league coaching, and then I got my NBA opportunity. So it
Gotcha.
was really cool. It was very, very awesome.
And that's kind of actually towards the beginning of your professional basketball
Yeah,
career for
yeah.
another almost decade.
Yes,
You're traveling the world. Tell us about some of the places that you played professionally in.
Well, man, I've been to China, I've been to Italy, I've been to Lebanon, I've been to Israel, I've been to Tunisia, Egypt, Philippines. And the way I did it, Anthony, I set it up to where I would go to that region of the world and I would talk to the players and ask them where's a good place to play. So,
Yeah.
for example, if I was in the Middle East, I would say, where's a good place to play in this area? And I say, because players will play in different leagues.
Yeah.
So they would say, if you get to Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Bahrain, you would love it.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to Bahrain and I loved it. Then from there I went to Qatar and I loved it. And I got a chance to see, that part of the world. And then if I would I would say like, if I went to Venezuela and I'd say, where's a good place to play? They'll say like the Dominican Republic or Puerto Rico. And I was able to do both. I did
Yeah.
Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. I just used basketball to travel. And I got to that point in my career where my resume, it kind of spoke for itself. So I would be open to agents telling me where they are available, like where they want me to go. So I would say, if I can go here, just let me know. And they'll say, well, oh yeah, come here and play. And then I would just go. So that's how I did it. And I saw the world, man. And I played. And the reason why I was able to do so much was because I didn't go for the year. Like I would go and I would play in these tournaments and I would go and play in like for a few months. And then when that tournament was done, I just come home.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was cool.
Basketball is basketball around the world. There's different rules internationally
Yeah.
and whatnot, but ultimately it's still basketball.
Mhm.
What was your experience like just in different parts of the world though? Was it received differently by fans? Were like fan behavior different?
So yeah, that's a great question. And I'll tell you a story. So I played in Israel for Maccabi Tel Aviv, and
Yeah.
that was the team that I left the NBA for. And I wasn't going to leave because I know I talked to Ray about it, and they wanted to make a push in the playoffs, and I had a role on that team.
Yeah.
And they just kept pushing for me to go, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to make the move. And then we had two talks. The second talk is like, you know what, it makes sense, do what you got to do, because they kept upping my salary too.
Oh yeah.
Like one day they was like, okay, this X amount of dollars, and then they were like, okay, this X amount of dollars. I was like, okay, fellas, like, let's talk about it again. You know what I mean? So it was the best decision I ever made. But so I went to Israel and I played for Maccabi Tel Aviv, and then the following year I went back and played for Jerusalem, Hapoel Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
And so we played a basketball game in Istanbul, Turkey.
Yeah.
And we played against Besiktas. It's a team out there. And out there in Europe, they have such an amazing setup where, like FCB Barcelona in Spain, they have the basketball side, but they also have the soccer side, which is football out there. And so Besiktas is like that. They have the soccer side and they have the basketball side.
Yeah.
And so I'm with Israelis in Turkey.
Yeah.
So when we get off the plane, we had security in the front, security in the back. We had police escort, and then when we get to the game, they're yelling at us. They're like, just it's Muslim, right? You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so we're there to play Israelis.
Yeah.
They're throwing batteries at us. They're throwing quarters at us in the game.
Sounds like Philadelphia.
It was insane. And we ended up losing the game, but we lost the game, and they were yelling at us like we won. Like it was just so. I was like, wow, this is an experience. It was like nothing I've ever seen. Yeah. And so I was like, you want to see a game with pressure? Try playing a basketball game with Israelis in Turkey.
Yeah.
it'll never be the same. I was like, wow, I can't believe what we went through right now. And they just like got on the bus and we left. And it's just like that rivalry is so, it's like thousands of years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to play one game and go through that, I was like, wow, that was awesome. It was incredible. I didn't think I would get hurt, but I definitely felt the vibe of like, they want us to lose this game so bad.
Yeah.
So that was an amazing experience though.
Probably a little more intense than say the Bulls-Knicks rivalry.
It was so intense, Anthony. It was so intense because you felt it. Like, oh man, they hate our guts. We're not going to win this game.
Yeah.
And they were good. They had a good team. They had Preston Shumpert from Syracuse, and they had Rick Apodaca, and I know he's a Puerto Rican, and they're both they're good players. It was an awesome experience.
Yeah. You've had your share of injuries. This is a sports medicine orthopod.
Yes.
We mentioned in our trailer that you tore your labrum in your shoulder.
Yes.
You were telling me beforehand, I think one of the first major injuries you had was you broke your hand when you were playing for a club in Anaheim. What happened there?
So it was the showcase, actually. And so it was crazy because I was actually getting called up to the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah.
And one of the guys that was on staff in Seattle was now working with Denver. And he was like, yeah, no worries, we'll call you up, keep doing your thing, whatever. So I'm out there playing, and I end up catching the elbow on my hand, like here.
Yeah. Right.
And it ended up being a spiral fracture. So it broke at an angle.
Yeah.
And I immediately was like, ah. And then my wife told me she heard it. It's like, oh, I knew something was wrong because you yelled. Yeah. And so then I went to the bench. I got it taped up. Courtney Watson was our trainer. Shout out to Courtney. She's I think she's a trainer in Nigeria national team, I think. And she also was a trainer for the Sparks.
Yeah.
So she taped my hand and I went back into play. And so I asked for the ball in the post and they threw the ball. And it hit my hand. I immediately fouled the guy. Like, nah,
yeah,
get me out of here. I immediately fouled him. And so I'm like, something's not right. Oh, Anthony, it was an experience. So I said, something's not right. So after the game, I go to the trainer, not our trainer, the doctor, right?
Yeah.
So he takes this fork, man. He takes this fork. If I could show y'all. Okay, he takes this fork. He hits it on the table, and it's like doing that, and then he pressed it on my finger. And these bones like clicked. I almost shoved the dude across the whole room. I'm like, I'm done. Like it's broke, right? So like you're just broken. So then they cast me up, and I was done after that.
I gotta tell you, the tuning fork, that's some old school medicine.
Oh man, he's like, is it broken? I said, I don't know, because I was moving my hand. Yeah. He took that fork and then he's like, tapped it, and it's like, oh.
You're like, we got an X-ray machine just like 50 feet
like,
away.
This is broken. This is broken.
Yeah. Well, that's got to be hugely disappointing. I mean, that derailed your plans to join the Nuggets. How'd you handle that from, sort of a mental, psychological standpoint?
With that injury?
Yeah. You were planning to go up to the Nuggets and this injury derails that plan. That's disappointing.
Yeah.
How'd you feel about that?
Well, so I thought I never wanted to have surgery, and I never had surgery, thank goodness, right? After 12 years of playing. And I was concerned that they were going to put pins in my hand.
Yeah.
And so because I was in Anaheim, I got a chance to work with the Anaheim pitching doctor.
Oh, okay.
And he saw my hand, he saw my x-ray, he said, oh, you're fine. You're going to heal naturally. Yeah. I was like, thank you. Yeah. So I just healed naturally. The bones just fused back together. Yeah. And the biggest issue was my range. I lost my range in my jump shot, and I lost this my forearm muscle. I lost
Yeah.
this muscle, so I had to develop that. It took me like a year to do a push up because when I took my cast off, I couldn't bend my wrist for like a week.
Yeah.
So it felt gnarly because it was so stiff for so long, and it's like, hence, if you don't use it, you lose it, right?
Yeah.
So it took a while to heal, but once I got up my shots, I got my range back, and I went back to play.
Yeah, it's good that you said that, and we'll just take a quick nerd break for
Mm-hmm.
the orthopedists out there. And that's, most metacarpal fractures,
Yeah,
breaks in the hand, you can treat them without surgery. They're resilient bones.
yeah,
As long as the alignment's pretty decent, they can heal without
yeah,
surgery. But exactly like you said, the act of immobilizing a joint, a bone, so that it can heal, it does lead to some atrophy.
yeah,
The muscles are used to being worked to a certain degree, especially in a
yeah,
professional athlete. You take that away for 4 to 6 weeks, and
yeah.
the muscles are going to kind of go to sleep. And it does take some time. We see this all the time, especially
Mm-hmm.
after ACL surgery. It
Yeah.
takes some time for those muscles to wake back up. They do.
Oh man.
Muscles have memory,
Mm-hmm.
but it can take a while.
Yeah, yeah. It took a while for me. It was a major. There's the other time I broke a bone,
Yeah.
and so my body responded, and I was able to come back, but it took a while. It was a process, physical
Yeah.
therapy, and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an injury happening here in the United States, modern
Mm-hmm.
Western medicine, whatever you
Yes.
want to call it.
Yeah.
You tore the labrum in your shoulder
Mm-hmm.
dunking on somebody in Korea.
Mm-hmm.
So, how did that play out? And what was your experience like receiving sports medicine in a different country?
So here's the cool thing about that. When in Korea, I played for the Samsung Thunder, so I played for Samsung.
Okay.
So I was
Yeah.
taken care of 10 times. I was taken care of 10 times over. Like they
Yeah.
were willing to pay for the surgery. They was giving me my salary. They were like, whatever you need.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, I'll just go home and be with family.
Yeah.
So I tried to push it on there, but they were like, well, you got to go take care of it.
Yeah.
And they said, well, we'll pay the surgery and cover your salary. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to argue none of that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times, unfortunately, people go play overseas and they don't get their full salary. They can agree on one thing and don't get it.
Yeah.
That actually happened to a player in the NBA that went overseas. He actually was in China and didn't get his money because the contract is not guaranteed.
I see.
If that team chooses to move on, they can move on and just your contract is void.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate in Samsung in Korea, in Seoul, Korea, that they took care of me. And I couldn't have had that kind of injury at a better position other than the NBA.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know something was wrong when you?
Yeah. Oh my God. So like, what? One of the reasons why I avoided surgery was I talked to the doctor about my range of motion because defense is what got me in the NBA, and then I developed everything else like being able to jump, shoot, put on the floor. Defense was my MO. So I asked the doctor. I said, if I can jump and put my hand straight up, will I be able to do that? He said, no, it'll be strong, but it won't be straight up. It'll be a little bit forward. Yeah. And I was like, I can't do surgery. So that's what made me avoid it. And it just, I'm thankful that I did.
Yeah. That's crazy playing for Samsung. Were they just like handing out cell phones? Like, here you go.
Yes, they were. It's crazy. They were. So I brought home, I gave my wife a camera, a crazy nice camera. Yeah. We had at the time, I don't know if you remember this, Anthony, but they were 3D TVs. So like they had TVs where if you put the goggles on, it's 3D.
Yeah,
man, we had those things everywhere. So I was in a facility in Samsung, and we had the gold medalist golf ping pong player in our facility.
Oh, cool.
So there was a floor for archery. There was a floor for women's basketball. There was a floor for us. Yeah. There was a floor for wrestling. There was a floor for everything, right? Yeah. And we had a chef who cooked whatever you wanted in the cafeteria. It was one of the coolest experiences. Like everything was first class. Everything. That's awesome. They gave us all kind of cool gear. Yeah, it was priceless. It was a great time.
That's like the Dallas Mavericks organization of the international world.
yeah. I think that's a great way to put it because I didn't want for anything in Korea. I was like, I'm in Korea. You're not home, but I learned because of my travel. I learned to just ingratiate myself in the cultures that I get a chance to see and be around. So I would go walk the streets. I would be out and about. and they took care of me 100%. I
Now
always try to take care of people.
Yeah, that's Korean people. We're nice people. I'm part Korean.
But I always try to encourage people. If you're trying to make the NBA and you get a chance to go play somewhere else, take advantage of it, because the NBA at this point know who you are, where you are, and when they want you. Yeah. You can play in China and go for like a month and then come back and be in the NBA.
Yeah,
they know exactly where you are and when they want you to be back.
Sure. Now imagine all of the medical staffs here are local, right? You're not having like a doctor from the U.S. oversee the Samsung team. Is that accurate?
No, all the doctors there were their doctors. And they were buttoned up. They took care of me. They spoke English, for the most part too. And so I was able to communicate. Yeah. And it was great. It was good. I felt like I was in good hands, and it was an opportunity to come home. And so I just chose to come home as opposed to having surgery and staying there. I chose to opt out of surgery and just be home.
Yeah.
Rehab, if you will.
You're right. Exactly. And, for the audience, you can rehab labrum tear. Some people, it doesn't work out for them that way.
Yeah, I got lucky.
Surgery is an option. But as you mentioned, one of the we don't even really think of it as a complication. It's just an inevitability, is that with labrum surgery, they're highly successful, but they can cause stiffness. And
I can imagine.
Yeah, that stiffness is usually pretty mild. But for a professional basketball player or professional athlete who has to do overhead work, it could be effective. It could affect you in a bad way.
I definitely needed that range of motion, but also I did physical therapy like every day for like almost a year.
Yeah,
I'd have a towel wrapped under them. I had a towel under my arm, and I just burn out all the muscles around it, because it was like, if you're not gonna have surgery, you have to strengthen the muscles around it, the muscles around it. So that was my that became my best friend, that resistance band and that towel.
How's the shoulder now? Do you have lingering effects from any issues?
I'm good now. I can dislocate it, but I don't like it like clicks, but I'm good. It doesn't stop me from playing. I could play I'll be 40 next week, but if I was, let's say,
happy birthday.
Thank you. let's say if I was 30 years old and I had this issue and I was in shape to play, I could play and not have any problem.
Yeah.
Bouncing
around the world like you did.
Yeah.
Did you ever come across any? I'm sure the level of care probably varied a little bit. Hopefully, they took the best care of you guys, as they should for any patient, particularly professional athlete. But were there any situations where you're like, I'm not sure how trustworthy the medical staff might be? Or
yes, there was. So I got so many stories that is crazy, but not necessarily my care. But I did have an issue in Egypt. I was in Alexandria, Egypt, and I had an issue with my teeth, and I had to go to the dentist, and I ended up getting an infection, and I had to come home and have surgery. It was brutal. It was brutal.
Yeah.
But so that was my roughest experience overseas. But in Egypt, it wasn't shiny gold and all that, but I was taken care of. I lived in like a country club, if you will.
Yeah.
Like near the golf course and all that. I had a great situation, great setup. I have friends I keep in touch with to this day out there.
Yeah.
And it was great. It was great. But that situation there with my teeth, oh my goodness. That was brutal. Because I had to have it. I had to have it because I was so much pain.
Yeah.
Then I saw the tools and I was like, oh man, I gotta do it. So that was my roughest experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how's that work? You sign on with a club in Egypt, and they have like a manager for the team who sets you up with a place to live and things of that sort. They just kind of take care of your travel.
Yeah. So like with my agent in the States that I had in the NBA, I didn't really need him to set up anything overseas as much, because in other countries they have agents that work with the team.
I see.
Because there's so many different vast places I went.
Yeah.
So I would go and they would set me up, and I wouldn't need much because I was already experienced in the travels that I was fortunate to do.
Yeah.
So it was easy to do it. A lot of stuff I did on my own towards the end of my career, at least like I'd say like 5 to 6 years. I did it on my own.
Okay.
Yeah. I had help here, help there, advising and a heads up, because you want to know where you're going.
Yeah.
But other than that, I was pretty much set. Because then I saw players I was familiar with
Yeah.
all over the world too, you know.
Right. That was going to be my next question. I'm sure it varies from team to team, but this was pretty common for
Yeah.
U.S. players, right?
It's
To
a
head
it's a
overseas.
beautiful brotherhood. The
Yeah.
basketball is a beautiful brotherhood, man, because a lot of guys, you know, even when you play in the NBA are not, you know, you get a chance to cross paths with people and you connect with them because my team in Israel, we have 4 Americans. And then Israel is such a great basketball place to play because
Yeah.
Israel has the Israeli league, but it also has the Euro League. So then
Okay.
one week you could be in Greece, another week you could be in Spain, another
Yeah.
week you could be in um, uh, Germany, another week you could be in Russia. And that's how the travel was. It was
Yeah.
so cool. And so that was why I loved being able to, I mean, I love the NBA, but I loved being able to travel the way I did.
Yeah, that sounds like an
Hmm.
amazing
Yeah,
opportunity that very few people would get to
right,
experience.
right.
Did it ever drag on you? Did you ever kind of get tired? Like, oh man, I got to go to a
No,
different
no,
country. Or,
I didn't get tired because I knew that it wouldn't last forever. So I knew that I wouldn't be able to play basketball forever and travel
yeah,
forever this way. I knew that, and so I always just tried to make the most out of the day. And
gotcha.
that's why I was always open to trying new foods. Like
Yeah,
in Italy, I tried frogs in Italy, and it was gnarly. It tastes like chicken, but
yeah,
the bone texture is what threw me off.
yeah,
So I'm eating. I'm like, okay, it's like chicken. And I'm like, nah, but that's the leg of a frog. And then I can't eat it. So I'm in my head, but I tried it. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And
yeah.
so I was always open to trying new things. Because in Italy, I mean, I was trying frogs, but the food out there was awesome. Like
Oh, I'm
the
sure.
pizza tastes completely different. The
Yeah,
cheese is different. And the pace of eating is different. And I just learned all that stuff and I appreciated it while I was there.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Let's talk about life after basketball. I see the Give
Yeah.
Culture hat. It's your
Yeah.
Instagram handle. Tell us about that.
Gladly, man. So my wife and I, when we retired from basketball, I say we because it was a team effort, man.
Yeah,
One thing I would credit my wife with, she never told me to retire.
yeah,
She always wanted me to play till I was like, okay, I'm done, you know. And so we had my daughter, who actually had her 7th birthday yesterday. She was born,
Oh,
and so she was like 1 year old, and I was like, you know what? She's juggling all these kids. I'm like, I think I'm done. I'm gonna shut it down.
yeah.
So I chose to shut it down, and my last job was in Puerto Rico.
Uh-huh.
So when I retired, Anthony, I we wanted to find a way really to give back to the community and establish ourselves because now that kind of money wasn't coming in. So we wanted to invest in ourselves. And I knew I had a network and all over the world, right? I
Yeah,
had a network all over the world, and
yeah,
technology was making us closer, allowing us to be closer and closer.
yeah,
So one of the things I did towards the end of my career, especially when I was in Qatar in the Middle East, I would just walk the streets. I would go for walks.
yeah,
I catch eye contact with people, and you know, because I'm 6'9", right?
yeah,
They're looking like they know I'm a ball player,
yeah.
but I just was open to meeting people,
Right.
and I got a chance to really meet awesome people that I keep in touch with now, and that are businessmen and that are people that talk about investments and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So I was able to transition pretty well in that regard.
Yeah,
It was a little bit difficult getting adjusted to have to go nowhere. You're not by yourself because basketball playing professionally is a lonely sport. In the
yeah,
NBA or overseas, it's lonely.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I watched every movie in the theater, even not American movies,
yeah,
because I was always by myself. I had to
yeah,
get out the condo, whatever. And so we wanted to find a way to give back to the community something that's tangible and something that can encourage you to see the good in others.
mhm.
Because I couldn't tell a person how like I could tell you how it feels to dunk, but everybody's not going to dunk a basketball, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But my motto for me was I can encourage you to treat people better. We can all treat people better.
sure.
So and during that time, we were dealing with as a society, we were dealing with tragedies on the media and in the news about unarmed black men getting shot,
Yeah,
and we were dealing with a lot of negativity, and our election process was very it caused division early on, unfortunately. And so for me, I wanted to find a way to see above that and then allow people to have control. And in that control, it's like, okay, I am going to choose to see the good in people, even though I don't like what I see on TV. The next person outside, when I walk out my door, the first person I encounter, I'm going to compliment.
mhm.
You set the tone of how you want to be treated. And
Right.
Anthony, I tell you, my wife created the idea, and I found my niche in it because I did the same thing when I was overseas.
Yeah,
Like when I was in the NBA, I was not the top 5 to 7 guys in the NBA. I was the like 11, 12, 13, 14 guy. And what that mean was I played, but if we were down by 5 points, my job was to come in and tie the game.
Yeah.
If we were up by 10, my job was to extend the lead to 15. Like I came in with energy. I came in and was efficient.
Yeah.
And so I took that mentality that I learned in the NBA and playing basketball, and I said, why can't I do that in society when I walk out my front door?
Sure.
So it's like I want to have a vibe and energy to say I'm choosing to see the good in people first, and I don't expect the person to speak to me. I initiate.
Yeah.
And so that's where the company was born, Give Culture. So like my shirt today, it says Give Patience,
Yeah.
but I choose patience. It's my accountability. And my hat says Give Culture. And the I and give is lowercase because when you talk about giving something, it's about the offering. It's not about what can I get, it's what can I give.
Yeah.
And so I choose to do that on a daily basis by choice. And my shirt holds me accountable. And so that's why we lowercase the I, and that's why we put our positive action word below to give because we're giving it, right?
Yeah.
And we've added give encouragement, kindness, thanks, hope, peace, love, patience, prayer. We had a custom forgiveness. I had a custom strength for my son and his football team recently. And so we got 300 more words we're going to add. Give understanding, give leadership, give consistency, give eye contact, all these little things that can help us have something in common. And it's I have a lot of pride in it because I feel like it's always relevant to choose to see the good in people. You know, no matter what's going on around us, we have to focus on what we can do, what's in our control, what's in our wheelhouse. And it's even how I took away from basketball those intangibles because I remember watching with Ray Allen, we're on the plane, we're flying to LA, we're playing the Lakers. And I was on the team when he had the record for threes against us, right? And so Ray would sit there because I sat with him on the plane and we watched all Kobe's offensive possessions. And when I watched him, I would watch how he moved and how he could shoot over both shoulders and all those little things. And we couldn't necessarily guard him one-on-one.
Yeah.
It was a team thing. We try to send him a different way on the floor.
Sure.
Because Kobe can go 1 for 6, make one, and then go 4 for 5.
Yeah.
And then you're calling timeout and you're getting yelled at, and it's just it's like so that's one of the things that always I appreciate about Ray, like the detail, right? Defensively on Kobe. And Ray isn't known as a defender, but we have to prepare for Kobe because he can give you 50.
Absolutely.
And then in the locker room ripping the stats in half, like God. Yeah. So Earl Watson was one of my teammates, and one of the things that I learned from him was when you prepare, you don't necessarily prepare for what the opponent is going to do as much as you know what you can control. So that's where I drew my confidence because I can easily be starstruck guarding Tracy McGrady or Sacramento Kings Ron Artest, who was like the star, like he was a horse.
Oh yeah,
he was difficult to guard. Imagine you got to deal with him on defense, beating you up, but then on offense he's going to come down and have the ball.
Right.
So, you know, I learned that it wasn't so much about what they did, it was my preparation. And then you let the chips fall where they fall, you know. And so I took that mentality to say, yeah, we're worried about dealing with that player on the court, but in a way he has to deal with me too because I prepared also.
Yeah.
And you can have a hot night or, you know, or he get hot and then you just get popcorn and watch because you can't guard him one-on-one anyway. You know what I mean? So I just learned that intangible from basketball, and I took that and I tried to apply it through a brand to say, hey, you're in control of your environment. Yeah. You have to choose to change it. You have to bring the energy. You have to bring that vibe. You have to initiate. And, you know, again, I want to be honest and say, I know that that's not easy for everyone. Everybody can't say they've saw what I've seen and have traveled where I've traveled to, but it's still a choice to say, hey, I choose to see the good in you. I choose to be kind today. And it can bridge the gap. And it can give you a conversation that sets the tone to say, hey, I learned something new about you. Like one of the examples I like to give, man, is like if the guy's going to, let's say that right now, Fresno State is up there right now. We're rocking and roll. So I'm going to say a guy that's going to Fresno State from high school. He is like the talk of the town. He's going to be he's a jock quarterback. his shirt says "Give kindness" at a high school, and then you got we're going to call him an emo kid in the corner. He got his fingernails painted black, his hair over his face, and he has on his high boots, but his shirt says "Give hope."
Yeah.
Now the school jock and the emo kid has something in common. They see each other, they know what it means to wear that shirt. And they can have a conversation beyond not being able to watch the same movies together, beyond not being able to listen to the same music. But hey, I know what it means to wear that shirt. Yeah. And I think that's where we can heal a lot of the angst and anger that we see when you look at something on the news and you're like, man, I wish I could do something about that. Yeah. Matter of fact, you can. You know what I mean? You can by choosing to treat the people around you better. So that's the brand right there. That's why we created it, to find a way to give back to the community and make the world a better place by choosing to see the good in others around you.
I'd say that is completely relevant today where we're at, where every issue, no matter what it is, has one person on one side and the other person on the other side saying, I'm right, you're wrong. There is no in between. There is no compromise. And it's tearing the country apart.
It is. It's hard, man. But again, for me, I always go back to that saying, like, if I go in the game right now, I got to try to tie it because we're down. Yeah. It's like I'm not worried about what's going on that I can't control, because we can complain all day about what's going on. Yeah. I'm like, no, I want to be the difference. I want to impact someone. I want to impact the people that I'm around. And that's where you fix it, to me, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's where I think you fix it. Treat the people around you better.
Positivity, finding common ground, because we're all in it together, whether we're talking about politics, COVID-19, race relations, what have you. We're all Americans. We're all in it together.
Yeah.
We're all people of the world, and we should treat each other better.
That's it. And it's and it sounds so like not doable, but it is. It's just being consistent over and over, doing the same thing over and over by choice. Like it's like loving something. I always tell my sons actually, I'm like, basketball was a relationship. I love the game and the game loved me back. Now you got that girl, you want to spend time with the girl, you love the girl, or not love what you think love is, right? Yeah. But you want to spend time with it, right? You want to establish that relationship. Everything is a relationship. It's a choice. So that's why I love basketball. Basketball loves me back. I got a chance to say I saw the world. I got my NBA jerseys. I am fulfilled in that dream. Now, that doesn't mean you sit on the hilltop and say, look at me. Yeah. Time to give back. You know what I mean? And so, like, that's where all of it came together for me, because my wife, again, she came up with the idea. And I'm like, you know what? I can take this and run with it, because I'm here to serve anyway. Yeah. We're all put here to serve in some capacity. Like when I was in the NBA, I was entertainment. You came to watch entertainment. Yeah. Now I am here to serve. Like, how can I help you? Working in the district in Clovis Unified, how can I serve this student? It's the same thing, just in a different arena, Yeah,
right.
To me.
Yeah, and we've heard time and again the greats, Michael Jordan,
Kobe,
rest in peace, talk about you get out of it what you put in. Right.
Yep.
No, there was never a lazy star. Right. You got to put the work in. You got to have the dedication, and then you reap the rewards. But it's got to be, there's got to be work put into it.
Yeah. You do reap the rewards, man, and it's and they're great rewards. But it's just doing the same things over and over consistently because you want to. You got to love it. It's like, again, like a relationship. You got to love it. Right. And unfortunately, these days, a lot of our students and our kids are distracted by, certain things like social media and all that stuff. They're good, but too much of it hurts you. You know what I mean? And so when you pour yourself into something, like I tell my daughter who's graduating high school, I say, just pick a direction and go in that direction. Because for me, I know what it means to give something 100%, right? And it's just transitioning that into what I do now. So like my job now is my MBA, because I know what it's like to give something 100%. And give it something 100%. It doesn't matter if someone says no. It doesn't matter if I'm discouraged and woke up on the wrong side of the bed. I still love it. I'm still committed to it. I'm still going to give it 100% because I don't know nothing else. I know the success is in giving everything you have. Yeah. And I think that way, once we get to that point where kids understand that, and they can use tools like my shirt, Give Patience, is just a tool to hold me accountable, to always have a positive outlook on things. You know, life is hard, but if you look at it to say, I'm going to find a solution in this, then you attract more people and you can become a better leader. That's how leaders are, cultivated. Like I'm solution based. Period.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you're working in education.
Yeah.
How gratifying has that been to work with young folks?
It's a beautiful thing, man. It's very fulfilling because, once you establish a relationship with kids and we get past 6'9" and size 15 shoe, once we get past that stuff, I'm able to establish a relationship with kids and show them that I care about them, show them that I want to see them win, and knowing that when they're struggling, they can come to you anytime. Like, I'm here for you. Yeah, I'm really here for you. Because when kids, I'm fortunate enough to do something in the district where I work with kids with social and emotional issues. And a lot of times, because they have social and emotional issues, whether it's single parents or I would say foster care, there's not a lot of consistency there.
Yeah.
Some single parents are resilient, but then there's some that didn't want to be in mom and dad split up. Those kids that they find that resilience and they're able to trust people, it's when you go to school, you have that safe haven, and sometimes the teacher don't have the chance to chase the pace of one kid's issues because that kid needs to chase the pace of the class and get educated. Mm-hmm. That's where I come in and I try to establish that rapport with them and let them know they can come to me for anything. Yeah. So it's fulfilling, man. And I feel like every athlete, with the exception, I'm not taking away from people that aren't, but every athlete that has a voice should do what I do because kids listen in a different way.
Yeah.
They listen in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. And, be honest, do you ever come across a kid that you just aren't connecting with that is driving you up the wall and you're like, let me take him out to this basketball hoop. Just have him stand right here under this hoop and we grab this basketball. I'm just going to back up a little bit. You just stand right there.
Well, I mean, you ever, it reminds me of movies. Movies when they have that clip of you just choking somebody and then you go back to just imagining it.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't say I haven't had those moments, but
you're just like drifting off and like, Mr. Felix, what's going on?
Yeah. I go by Coach Felix though. I go by Coach Felix. Yeah, I go by Coach Felix because for me, it's like it's the next play, right? I don't necessarily. I'm not a disciplinarian. I'm a disciplinarian at home, but not at work. Like at work, I'm like, okay, let's look under this rock. Let's look under that rock. Let's look under that rock. Like I'm never going to give up. We're going to figure it out until you move on, right? And that's kind of been my approach, and it's worked because even with me, like the greatest lesson I've ever learned in basketball, was not to worry about missed shots. That's the greatest lesson I ever learned because you don't practice to miss. You practice to make every shot you take. Right. Now, if you miss and you get in your head about it, Kobe is a living testament when he played on that basketball court to keep shooting the basketball. Yeah. Every great player under Kobe that has learned under him is taught to be aggressive, right? Yeah. So that aggression is something that you can use in just saying, I'm not going to give up on myself. And I choose not to give up on any kid I work with. Sure. Like some of them are unfortunate, some of them let you down, but it's always the next play. Yeah. Always the next play.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. It's funny. I want to go back to one thing you said about walking the streets in Qatar and
Qatar.
Qatar. I'm going to admit it. I'm Asian. I'm from the United States, but I've been to Asia, and they don't share our social mores when it comes to staring. So I can only imagine in China or Korea that people are just gawking at you as you walk down a giant.
So I got two stories for you. I got two. So when I was in China, I was fortunate. I was with LeBron in Cleveland, and we played the first NBA game in Macau, China. So it was in the Venetian Hotel.
Okay.
And they had an arena in there. We played in there against Orlando Magic. Yeah. It was so cool. We were walking through one of the computer malls. And in a computer mall, you can get all kind of cool stuff in there.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'm in there with LeBron, and we're walking through the mall, and they're shining this light, little laser in our faces. We're like trying to see, like, hey, and they got these lights shining in our faces. And then another story was I was in Shanghai, China, and I love China, and it taught me Here's the thing about that, Anthony, and I never shared this. It really taught me how to open up, and it taught me how to deal with something that you can't control. So I would go to KFC in Shanghai, China, in the busiest area, and sit in the window and eat.
Yeah.
And I would just watch people watch me walk by
Yeah.
every single day.
Yeah.
And I was just like, look at them, look at me. And I'm like, if I was in a bad mood, they're still gonna look at me. If I was in a good mood, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
And it just allowed me to be more present. It taught me to be more present in the moment. And it just allowed me to like relax. Like everybody's looking at you, but it's okay. Like I felt like where I lived in Shanghai, I lived off Mei Lung Lu. I'll never forget because I kept telling the cab, Mei Lung Lu, that's my corner.
Yeah.
And there's some people that lived in my area that never left a mile radius of where they were.
Really?
You know what I mean? And so I learned to appreciate it.
Yeah.
And my son Roman, who's now 11, when he was a little kid and I was in Taiwan, I was the first player to play in the NBA and play in Taiwan. I beat Marcus Fizer by like 48 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I went to Taiwan and played, and I flew my son out there, Roman, and my wife and my daughter Olivia, and they loved his hair.
Yeah.
And they loved touching his hair, and he would just look at them, and they just touch his hair, and there was such cool fans, and it was just one of those things like I wish people could experience that. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate that I did, which is why I'm always big on giving back.
Sure.
But not just not financial, just mainly just my time and my effort, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was just such a cool experience, man. And I don't take a minute for granted of what I was able to see over there and the culture clash, because I would go to a place and I would be literally like shoulders over everybody else.
Yeah.
And then when I go to my team, I got dudes taller than me, right? Yeah. And it's a trip. It's an absolute trip. But it was one of the coolest things. It was one of the coolest experiences I've ever had.
Yeah, I mean, you've had a rich, blessed experience, and it continues to pay dividends in where you're at now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Noel, this has been great. I really appreciate you coming on. You know, the one thing I forgot to tell you is that I closed the show with 5 questions with guests. So can we do 5 questions with Noel Felix? Okay.
Yeah, I'll try to keep them short too.
All right. Question number 1. We've talked about all of these exotic places you've been to. What was your favorite local food of any of the locations that you played in? And it could be Anaheim or, you know, something like that. But, you know, hit me with something exotic.
Well, Israel was off the chain. Like I ate at like 5-star restaurants in Israel.
Yeah.
And the steak was amazing. Their desserts was amazing.
Yeah.
I felt spoiled to eat out there the way I did. So I say Israel their restaurants was bar none. It was amazing. Then I had a good spot in Seattle. As a team, we would go out to eat at this nice little spot in Seattle. Yeah. But Israel was so nice.
Least favorite food location?
Least? I hate to say it, but Egypt. I was
Egypt. Don't eat there. Don't get dental care. Otherwise, it's awesome.
So there was this lady called Big Mama. A lady called Big Mama.
Yeah.
And she was this Egyptian lady, and she cooked food for us, and like everybody was excited about it. And like sometimes she just didn't hit the mark for me, but I still ate it and smiled. You know what I mean? That was something that I would say like, but again, I still could go somewhere and eat, you know what I mean? But that was one where we're like, oh, we're gonna eat as a team, we're gonna eat with her. I was like, okay. Big Mama, here I come. But I'll tell you another funny story real quick, 10 seconds.
No, take your time.
Never go to Shanghai, China and ask for orange chicken.
Oh yeah.
Don't do
what
that.
Happened? What happened? Hit me with the story. You gotta hit me now.
So I go and I ask for orange chicken, and they were like looking at me crazy. I was like, orange chicken, orange. And I'm trying to, and it don't exist. Yeah. It does not exist in China. It don't exist.
Oh man, Noel,
orange
you have
chicken
just
is an American setup. It is it's not culturally Chinese food.
You have just unlocked Pandora's box. This interview is going to go on for another 2 hours. We're going to talk about this in depth. You are absolutely right. So it's kind of like Tex-Mex, you know, like
Yeah.
people go down to parts of Mexico and they're like, let me get a hard shell taco. That's not really a thing there.
Yeah.
That's you know,
Yeah.
inspired food from a certain culture that has
Yeah.
been altered
Yeah.
for Western tastes,
Uh-huh.
and orange chicken,
Oh my God.
kung
So
pao chicken.
yeah, yeah,
That's like that. Actually, I got a funny story for you. So
yeah.
my wife is white. She's Caucasian,
Uh-huh.
and she's an adventurous eater.
Okay,
And
okay.
so when we first started dating, I would kind of push the limits. You know, take her to dim sum first, and it was like a duck place. And Chinese duck place, you probably saw in Shanghai. It's no joke.
Yeah.
There's like ducks hanging in the like dead ducks hanging in the
Oh yeah, yeah,
window,
yeah. Yeah.
slabs of pork. It's
Mm-hmm.
delicious, but it looks freaky.
Yeah.
And this was all new to her. But she liked sushi. We would go out to sushi, and I would tell her, you know, these things that you order with your friends, where they shove 50 ingredients into a roll, that's not real. It tastes good, but that's not real. That's just something we do here in the United
It's
States.
different, man. It's
If you go to Japan, you're not going to get that.
Right, right. No, that's so true, man. Like I was eating with my team, and we had pigeon, we had all this food, and I'm trying them, and then they wheeled the table, and I'm looking at the table like, what just happened? We just all just breaking bread and sharing.
That's right.
Like, wow,
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I tell you this too, man, real quick, man. I was forced to learn how to use chopsticks.
Oh yeah.
I was forced.
Yeah.
So I love noodles, right? College kid, noodles. We hit out there. The noodles, you get variety. You get the bigger bowls. We have them here now, right?
Yeah.
So I'm getting these bowls of noodles.
Yeah.
Getting my food, getting my drinks. You know, I found my niche. Stuff I liked, I was all in on, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, I'll try it. I don't like it. So I'm getting my noodles. And I'm looking at the top of my noodles, and they have this cover like a cup of noodle. And I'm getting my chopsticks off, and I'm snapping them, making them longer. And I'm like, figuring it out, right? Hands is doing all this stuff. So I got good. I got my flow.
Yeah.
Like a weekend.
Yeah.
And so then I go, my routine, I get my noodles, I come home, I'm putting my food in the cabinet. I knocked over one of my cup of noodles.
Yeah.
On the bottom of it was a fork. You flip it and you snap it. So I learned how to, by the time I learned how to get good with chopsticks, I didn't need the fork anymore.
Exactly.
A wilder story, man.
Well, that's good. That's just another life skill. Chopsticks.
Yeah.
Something everybody should pick up.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 3. Who's the best player, most gifted player you ever played with or against?
So that was in stages. At Fresno State, Courtney Alexander was the greatest player I've ever seen in my life at that stage. And then it was Ray, and then it was LeBron James.
Yeah.
Those 3 guys were it was like when I went to play with LeBron, I felt like, let's see if he's that good.
Yeah.
And what I'm talking 07 young LeBron. So like super athletic.
Yeah.
Oh man, he was the best player I ever played with, against, because I played against him when I signed with Maccabi Tel Aviv. When I signed, I left Seattle. I requested a release. I signed with Maccabi. We flew to Cleveland. We played Cleveland in Cleveland, and then we flew to Toronto. Played Toronto. Then I flew to Israel. Yeah. In the preseason, and they had Anthony Parker, who was like Michael Jordan at Maccabi Tel Aviv. Yeah. So LeBron James is the greatest player I ever played with, played against, by far.
Yeah. And he's still doing it. I don't care what people say about him being old. Amazing, he's still doing it.
He's a special cat, man. He's one of the greatest leaders I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's good. Like the way he treats you on your team, like he treated me like I was like Ray did the same thing in Seattle. Like he treated me like I was a part of the team. Because you're there and you're like, I'm here. And like, I wonder if I can, like, I went with Ray Allen and got like manicures and pedicures, and like we hung out like that. You know what I mean?
You got a manicure with Jesus Shuttlesworth?
Man, he pull up, they'll park his car, and we'll just go sit in the chair, and then they'll come up and they take care of him. Like it was so cool, man. He was just a great teammate. And then I was with him the day he broke the record for most threes in the season. We drove to the game together, and he came and he said something that was so amazing to me. He was like, he came in the game. He went like 4 for 4. Wop, 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 wop.
Yeah.
And then they time out, give him the ball, all that. And then after the game we left, he's like, man, I'll never forget I went with you to the game. And I was like, oh, that's so cool, man. He made me feel like $1 million, you know what I mean? But he said, I just wanted to get it out the way. I was like, what? So he just came in and just made 4 in a row to get it out the way.
I'm just shooting these.
Yeah, I just want to get this out the way, make 4 in a row, get my award. And I was like, and then lo and behold, Steph Curry passed it 4 times over, right? 3 times over.
Yeah.
So, LeBron James, greatest player I've ever played with, and then behind him is Ray Allen.
Yeah, yeah. If Ray played in today's game, he would probably be hitting threes at the same clip as Steph.
100%, because his shot was so beautiful, man. Like, and I talked to him about it. I picked his brain because at the end of my career, I wasn't jumping over. I wasn't dunking on people like you, and you know what I mean. But no, at the end of my career, he made me a shooter, man. I was a shooter at the end of my career because he talked about it's all one motion, it's a feel. And he just broke it down in a way where I was able to take that and run with it.
Yeah. I mean, if you were your size shooting threes, and this was 20 years ago, but you're playing today, you'd be killing it in the NBA right now.
Yeah, no, the NBA changed because, like, you know, I was a power forward in college and a center power forward because I was so athletic. And then I had to add in the NBA and in professional sports, you have to add a skill every year.
Yeah.
You know, and so I added every year. And then when I got to a point where I could put on the floor a little bit, you know, make plays off the dribble, then I had to extend my range.
Yeah.
So by the end of my career, I was like a 3-point shooter, man.
Yeah.
I catch and shoot that thing because of his advice and his tutelage. And, you know, I love being in the gym. So that's how I ended my career as a shooter. I started ducking and jumping. And, like, I blocked Yao Ming's shot before. Like, it's crazy. Yeah, I blocked his shot. He went to dunking. And I came because I'm a quick jumper.
Yeah.
Came out of nowhere and blocked it. I probably had my eyes closed, but I blocked it.
That's got to be a pretty good feeling.
Yeah, it's crazy.
All right, I got a kind of a Fresno State related question.
Yeah.
This is actually question number 4. Okay, so you were on the 05-06 Seattle Supersonics. We mentioned some of the big names you played with, Ray Allen, Rashard Lewis, etc. So one of your teammates, I believe that season, also played for one of your college rivals. He played for another Western Athletic Conference school, Rice. Name that player.
Mike Wilkes.
Yeah. Too easy.
Yeah, Mike Wilkes. Yeah. Mike Wilkes was awesome because Mike Wilkes was a headache in college.
Yeah.
He was so good.
I looked up some of your head-to-head box scores. He was dropping like 20 a game.
Mike Wilkes was a monster in college, man. Yeah. Mike Wilkes, that was easy.
Too easy. Okay. 5th question with Noel Felix, and then we'll call it a night. What is your all-time personal favorite basketball moment?
I got a couple accolades. I got Defensive Player of the Year in the CBA. That was pretty cool. So I'll tell you one of the coolest moments. I don't join a lot of dunk contests because I'm too tall.
Yeah.
And like once a short dude does a windmill, it's like, do that again, right?
Yeah.
So I always had this dunk where, and I never shared this before, it's a trip. Great question. I had this dunk where I would jump past the basket, touch the middle of the backboard square, and then duck my head under the rim and dunk it backwards. So I've never seen it done other than me doing it.
Yeah.
And when I did it in this dunk contest, they didn't know what I did. So everybody was like, what did you do? It happened so fast. I would just jump. This is the basket. This is the rim.
Yeah. Gotcha.
I would just pass it, tap the backboard under the rim, and dunk it this way. It was one of the craziest dunks I've ever done. And they don't know they can't explain what I did.
Yeah.
So that was that moment, man. It always like, do that dunk again. Let me see it. But in the dunk contest, you can't say that.
Right.
So they didn't know how to grade me. Right. That was one of the coolest moments ever, man. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Noel,
really appreciate your time,
sharing
your story, sharing your wisdom.
Thanks for hearing me out.
Please check him out on Instagram. We got the handle right there. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Hope you enjoyed the show. Catch you next time. Hey, folks, thanks for tuning in. If you like the show, please subscribe, like, and share. And we'd love to hear from you. If you have a question about today's show, or you, a loved one, or maybe your favorite athlete has sustained a sports medicine injury that you would like to know more about, please reach out to us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or email. And stay tuned for more exciting content from the Sports Medicine Orthopod. Thanks again.